Councilors, Council President Hudson, Councilor Driscoll, Councilor Hogan, perhaps others, but Councilor Peniagua. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Tim to give the presentation on the purchase of vehicles.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Good, because I can't. So we're going to skip the intro stuff, and we can just go. So this is still just a summary of the whole plan, but it at least it shows fire. So for fire, over the 6-year period, we're at 23.2 million, with 3.5 cash and 19 borrowed. Then just for the upcoming year, 22, for fire, they have 4.1 million, which is 700,000 cash and 3.4 million borrowed. This is a summary of the plan for the entire period. I will say that fire does a great job of their capital planning. They're probably the superstar of the general fund. So they think over the whole period. They think in terms of sort of these buckets, and they think in terms of their individual buildings. So they kind of like describe things really well. As a result, they're also really good for asking for money. So they probably asked for the biggest percentage over their target, which is fine because they're articulating what they think they need and are, in my opinion, being pretty thoughtful about what they're asking for. And they didn't get everything they asked for, and I don't have a great summary of what they didn't get, but this is the summary of what we proposed for the whole period. And then just for the upcoming year, broken out by source, these are the projects that we have at the moment. We're really talking about this engine apparatus, which is them purchasing 3 large engines. And we would use borrowed funds for that. A lot of their other stuff is cash capital, but similar to the last meeting, we tried to use bonds for major purchases that are going to last a long time, and the things that we're less certain of, we try to keep in cash capital. With that, I would really let Chief Mons or whoever he wants to talk about this particular. I have the fleet, I think, for the engine tab listed here, but other than that, I would let Chief Mons advocate for his own department because he does a great job.
Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Mons. I'm the fire chief. Our capital plan is a very complex situation with a lot of needs in order to run our fire department. I think I have it broken down, even though with all the complexities to do all the different things we need to do, I have it broken down into pretty much 3 categories. Even on the slide that Director Rudd was showing, there's 10 different categories, but the general view is our fleet maintenance program and to replace those. We have training and communications, which we have to stay on top of, which if you look at any OSHA or NIOSH reports, when there are fire injuries on the fire ground or fatalities, most of those injuries can be tied right back to training or communication issues. And our other component of our capital plan is our fire station maintenance and upkeep. I know yesterday on the agenda for the Common Council meeting, the largest purchase amongst this 2022 plan are our fire apparatus, our engines. And Since this is my fourth year being as the fire chief for 3 years, we've been fighting to get our apparatus fleet back to a position where it wasn't behind the 8 ball. And I was on the DPW meeting earlier, and I know there was discussion about it's always a situation where it seems like the sky is falling, but I can demonstrate, and I can get into an explanation of how our purchasing schedule over the last 2 decades, I can show how we didn't purchase the amount of fire trucks that we needed to. And over the last 3 years, with the assistance from the mayor's office, along with the work with the Common Council, after we buy these 3 purchases this year, typically based on any nationally recommended best practices or standards, we should be buying 2 engines 1 year and 1 ladder truck the next year, and then every 7 years a specialty apparatus such as our heavy rescues. So between 1997 and 2012, we should have bought 13 apparatus that we didn't buy. Those price of apparatus from back then, the prices have gone up almost 21%. So if you take that dollar amount of all the apparatus that we should have bought to maintain the standard that is recognized nationally and internationally by any fire service, the city didn't spend $13 million on fire trucks for our city that we should have probably bought. So that's why we have this particular request to be able to buy 3 engines this capital plan. And that was what was on the capital plan yesterday at the study session, and which is going to be, I asked to appropriate the funds next Monday at the next study session and voting session, because it takes 14 months once we get approval and get the account set up to actually get the apparatus built. So that's a pretty general overview of the fleet, our fleet replacement program. Does anybody have any questions? I have a ton of information if you need it, but that's pretty much where we're at. We've been digging our way out of the hole, getting back to where there's been multiple times over my last 3 years where we've actually run out of fire trucks because we didn't have spare trucks. Part of getting our fleet back, we've repurposed 5 engines with the older fleet, which right now we don't even have enough engines to repurpose anymore. That's why we're going to buy new this time. And those repurposed engines and ladder trucks that we've done over the last 3 years have saved the city almost close to $2 million with us being frugal. And on the call with me is Diane Nastry, our fiscal officer, Deputy Chief Jamie Farewell, who oversees our maintenance of our fleet and our buildings, and Zach Smith, who's our district chief, who is also a part of the planning. So we have any information that you need. So regarding the fleet, does anybody have any questions? And I will say this, out of our fleet right now, I believe 12 out of our engines that we actually have in our fleet do not meet those standards that I referred to that are accepted by any nationally recognized fire protection standards. So I think we're getting to the place where the things we bought last year are getting ready to be produced and delivered to us, and then getting these rigs will get us right where we need to be, close to it. So does anybody have any questions on the fleet management, or any questions on the training and communications, or the fire stations? I can speak about all that stuff, or if you'd like, I can just go down the list of all the items I have under the program project on the plan.
I think that'd be helpful, Chief, to go through that list.
Okay, so the first line under 2022 is the communications updated program. That particular program, it's a very complicated program, but this program, so when a 911 call is a citizen calls 911, the call goes to the 911 center, and then the communications system that we have, it alerts our fire stations. So the average age of our fire stations is 50 years old. All of our fire stations, and the equipment that's in those fire stations is as old as those buildings are. The pieces to these particular communications program of the functions of these communications to alert us to the fires and to the other things. We can't even buy parts for the original equipment. We're actually calling different places, and they're piecing together different types of components, and we're just using the skilled trades with our electrician, and we're making it work. But under this plan this year, we asked for $61,000. We asked for more money, but like Director Rudd said, we try to work to get enough things in this particular line to make sure that we can get it approved. So we ended up getting $61,000 approved, but we asked for $100,000. And the plan is in a couple of years is to upgrade all the different fire stations at the same time, because if we were going to go through and actually upgrade one whole fire station at one time, it's better just to do the whole group of 13 fire stations if we get a grant or we allocate the funds for that. So underneath the communications, it's for the alerting system and for the station broadcasting system. Next, we have $100,000 for environmental impact and motor systems. A lot of these things that are under this line are we have to meet DEC standards. We work with the engineering department with Mary Robinson with a lot of this stuff, but this particular $100,000 will be used for a fuel tank replacement and for garage oil and water separator systems. And that's all DEC requirements. And some of the pictures that the gentleman that I told you that work over at our maintenance division, some of the items that need to be replaced, they haven't been touched since the buildings have been built, and a lot of the components are almost rusting to the point where these things are going to jeopardize the integrity of the entire structure or the floor which they sit on. The next item for $360,000 is external facility upgrade. It's the same scenario underneath the external facility upgrades. We have an apron and parking lot replacement program. So when you look at the fire stations from the street, the concrete between the road and the doors where the fire trucks come in and out of, they haven't been replaced in 50 years. They've been patched here and there. As time has gone on, the apparatus has gotten way more heavier than when these fire stations were built. So we have a necessity to replace these, the parking lots where the firefighters park in back of the fire stations, and the apparatus platforms out in front of the fire station. So we have some money allocated towards that. Down at Station 18, which is across the street from Faith Heritage School, when that building was built, and it's one of the newest fire stations, there was a glass block wall that was built with all glass. If you ever drive down and head towards Seneca Turnpike, right next to the doors where the fire trucks come in and out of, the glass block is in terrible repair. Water's leaking through, and where the water is leaking through there, it's affecting our communications equipment. So we've been putting this off for multiple years, but this is one of those items where we can't push it off anymore because it's just getting more expensive the further along we push it down the line. The next topic underneath this external program is the overhead door replacement. Our fire trucks go on 22,000 calls plus a year, and that's not including going on inspections and going in and out of the firehouses. And we need to come up with a plan to replace the doors on these fire stations. Right now, we're just buying pieces, and actually just when one door breaks, we'll go fix that door. But because our maintenance crew has been pretty much piecemealing this particular program together for decades, some of the components that you have to screw into the door to make it work, there is no more room to put Band-Aids on. So some of these doors need to be totally replaced. So that's money that's allocated underneath the external program. And then we also have doors and windows that helps with the efficiency of energy. The next thing we have is internal upgrades. And those are pretty much like the boilers, electrical systems, gender and pandemic-friendly upgrades, you know, to make sure that all the different firefighters we have, no matter their gender or any other considerations that have to do with pandemics, that we realized we weren't as prepared because these stations were as long regarding like deconning certain areas. So when our firefighters come back from some of the calls that we're getting dispatched to where there's COVID related issues, when they come back to be able to decon for whatever reason, we realized most of our stations weren't equipped for this. So to be able to upgrade and improve the gender capabilities of our fire stations is always something that we need to make sure we're keeping an eye on, and we really haven't done that over the last few decades. Underneath this topic also is the HVAC, heating, cooling, and these fire stations, we all have places we live in. Just to get off topic for a second, but these fire stations are being lived in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by close to 50 different firefighters a day. So the heating, the doors that I'm speaking about, the cooling in the summertime, these things are running all the time. This is one of the items that are underneath this particular internal upgrade program, and also just making sure our plumbing and bathroom infrastructure is good to meet the gender requirements that we need, and the plumbing's old, and to be able to stay on top of that. For this year, I spoke about the fire engines already. The aerial replacement, that's a ladder truck we actually don't have. We're gonna purchase one of those next year. And then we have our small fleet replacement program, which there are our support vehicles that respond to make sure the rest of our operations are efficient. So that's the plan for this year. If anybody has any specifics about any of those items, I have some very, very great people that work with me, and we could pretty much answer any question that you have.
Chief, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to, thank you for going through all that. I mean, I think your department just does a really good job of being proactive and thinking about what your needs are going to be and really understanding it well. So I just wanted to say thanks to you and your whole department.
Well, thank you. It's definitely a team effort, and it's thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions or anything?
Chief, Joel, you probably saw what we went through with the Department of Public Works with the outline that they gave us with the fleet maintenance and stuff like that. Do you have something like that as well?
Yep, and I have like I said, some of my teammates that work with me on the call with me, but I can just give you a quick overview. So a city like ours that responds to the amount of calls we respond to, a frontline apparatus should be in service for 10 years. A reserve apparatus should be in place for five additional years. So,
Chief, can I interrupt for 1 second really quick?
Yep.
And I'll let you go.
Yep.
Councilman Chuck, I would just say that as a part of the process, each of these categories really has a briefing sheet. And so in this slideshow, I just put the engine back up, but they've listed their inventory in general for all their stuff. And the goal, so my first time through this, I would say the goal, we've gone to like a briefing sheet model where each project gets a briefing sheet, but we're not quite to the point where I wanted to publish briefing sheets because it rushed time. So I think a year from now, a lot more of this information will be part of the plan, but the chief does have it all. So go ahead, chief, talk through it, or even to the extent certain projects want more information, we probably have it, but I erred on the side of less for the plan because I was afraid of it having things that weren't totally all right.
Certainly. Can you just repeat your question? But I will say before I respond, pretty much most of our requirements, because of the line of work we do, there are nationally recognized best standards and practices, and we try to follow those to the T. So the question that you were saying, as far as replacement plans and things like that, or timelines and how much would it cost to buy a new one compared to keeping it for an extra few years, we have all that data. And like I said, the gentleman that actually works specifically on these situations every day for our department, they can break everything down to however far we need to. But typically, we've been riding our fire trucks way too long. Like I said earlier, 12 of our fire trucks in our fleet, they should either be their front lines and they should already be reserved, or our reserve fleet shouldn't even be in play right now, but they are right now until we get a couple more purchases made. 2 of our fire trucks we had to condemn recently because of the lack of preventive maintenance before over the last decade or so. So the goal is to meet those general standards of 10 years for a front line, 5 years for a reserve fleet. But most of our capital plan components do have standards that we go by. But I'll let you ask the question again, and then I'll let Zach Smith or Jamie Farrell answer, because they can get into specific about the analysis that you might be seeking.
Yeah, what I'm asking for, Chief, is say, for example, you have an apparatus or a truck. You bought it 3 years ago, and that was in 2018, and now it's 2021. And we just want to see the history of it, what it had cost so far in terms of maintenance, and DPW, we had asked for that sheet and they had presented. I'm wondering if we can get the same. Like this year team is great, but there's no amount of money as to what it has cost for maintenance in 2018 and 2019 and 2020, or thus far what it has cost to maintain. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, and I have all that data. I'll let Zach Smith answer that question, because he's the backbone behind our program with Jamie Farrell. But I'll let Zach Smith get into why it's important to buy apparatus when we do, and why the best practices and recognized standards should be met. So, Zach, can you explain that to him, please? The counselor.
Good afternoon, District Chief Zach Smith. So, Counselor, the easiest way to explain this is due to the complexities of each vehicle, the cost varies. Each vehicle has an aerial device that has to be tested by a third party every year, and then each aerial device has an hourly schedule for maintenance of just the aerial. And then on top of that, we have the pump area that we have to maintain to move the water, and then the chassis that carries the whole vehicle. So every vehicle is brought in 3 times a year, like a heavy PM, preventive maintenance, a light PM, and then it's brought in periodically for the aerial check. On average, I'd say $20,000 to $30,000 per heavy truck to maintain. Obviously, the older vehicles cost more than the newer vehicles. The newer vehicles are purchased. Our standard is a 3-year warranty. So the first 3 years of the vehicle, the maintenance costs outside of tires, brakes, and gas and oil is covered under the purchase price of the vehicle. After 3 years, you then begin maintaining the vehicle on our own, and then those costs increase. We can certainly get you the cost of each vehicle, but that's how the fleets run. I'd just like to point out that we have a 2010 Sutphen aerial tower that is now 3 generations old for the manufacturer, and we're having problems getting parts for that truck at the 11-year mark. So a great example of why after 10 years it moves to reserve status, and then we move it down the road. We can definitely show after that 10 to 12-year period, we start putting a lot of money into the vehicles. And when you look at what we get for them at auction, which is typically $3,000 to $7,000 at that 15 to 17-year point, we can easily put way more than that into the vehicle to keep it running, but it's obviously not worth anything at that point. We can definitely provide you all that information, though. So I hope that answered the question.
So I guess my question would also be, Chief, and thank you for that explanation, Zach. I guess my question here would be, for example, the Spartan, truck in 2019, there's 200 hours. I guess those are the hours that you put into maintaining it. Now, could you monetize that 200 hours to see what that comes to in terms of money?
So you want us to be able to depreciate all the apparatus so you can see what they're worth after we buy them? Is that kind of what you're asking for, Councilman?
So what I'm asking is,
I would say that on the DPW thing, they had a column kind of here that said the cost of maintenance because they track when it goes into the shop and kind of the rough cost. I don't know the pure accuracy of the number, but I think he's asking, do you have that same so that you could say, this 2019 truck, I would expect it's very low. And then there'd be a much higher dollar amount that has been maintained into the 1999.
Yes.
And you also have a 2018 here, 2008 Engine 8 Spartan truck. That truck, this point, as probably you have probably put some money into it. And how much have you put into it thus far to this point? That's what I'm asking.
To Zach's point, the 3-year warranty would still be in play for those particular engines. And then, but I'll get all that information for you, Councilman Majok. We'll get it all
my next question. All right, my next question is, go back to the first. Go back to the first slide. Yes, that. So with the one that you just left. Yes.
The one that was circled. Okay.
Yes. So here, there's engine apparatus replacement program is going to cost $28,850,000. Now, with that also put into consideration grants as well, or apparatus that you don't purchase apparatus with grants.
No, Counselor, we've applied for grants to try to get apparatus. They're very competitive. Those grants to actually get apparatus. When we applied before, it was almost before the pandemic, because the financial situation of the city was doing a little bit better and going in the right direction. We actually didn't qualify to actually get the grant that we applied for. So the next best thing was to repurpose and refurbish the used apparatus that was past the 15, or the apparatus that we were still running that should no longer even have been on the road. So we repurposed those fire engines, which was 5 of those. And those are the 2018 and 2019s. Those were fire trucks that were beat up, were running to the ground. We took those and repurposed them. We used the pumps, we used the aerial ladders. And because doing that, we saved the city $2 million. So Zach and Jamie Farewell, and before Jamie was over there, I had another chief over in that division over there, and we've been looking everywhere to save money. And not to pat myself or these guys on the shoulder, but you for the amount of money that we've saved and what we're asking to spend, if you go across any other fire department in the country, the amount of money that we get and what we get for the bang for the buck, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that spends the money as well as we do to get all the items that we need and to actually address the situations that we have. So we've looked everywhere to get money anywhere we could. We've repurposed everything that we could. We actually we repurposed all of our spare engines. We don't have any more to even repurpose. That's why we had to buy a brand new one. If we had spare ones that were able to be repurposed, we would probably be able to save $200,000 to $250,000 on, and that price would be lower. But we've exhausted that option because we've been doing it the previous 3 years since I've been the fire chief. So I can honestly say we've looked everywhere to save money, and this is where we're at, where we have to buy 3 apparatus to get the quality and quantity that we need to provide the service. I mean, these apparatuses are key for us to do our job. They're the number one. One of the number one things to get us to and from the calls. These particular ones go on every fire call, any car accident, any hazardous materials call. These are the bread and butter of any fire department, the fire engines. And we're at the point where we exhausted every way to not buy a new one. We've actually even bought used ones from neighboring fire departments that we still have in play right now that we've been running them into the ground, and we're worried about a liability issue with keeping them so long. So that's where we're at with this program as far as the engine replacement program. If I could save any money anywhere, we would, but honestly, Counselor, this is kind of where we're at with our apparatus. And not to point fingers back over the last 2 decades, but like I said, when you don't buy 13 apparatus for 2 decades, you land here. And I'm not saying the sky's falling, but those are the facts. We didn't buy 13 rigs. We didn't stay on a purchasing schedule. So this year, we're going to be the closest to where our fire department should be with our apparatus, and we've been over the last 20 years. And it's because of all the work that you've helped me do on the council and the work our team has done with the city administration. So that's my answer. I wish I had a way to say we can save a couple $100,000 or $1 million, but we've done that the last 3 years, and we've squeezed the juice out of that fruit, to be honest.
And Chief, I'm not asking to diminish your effort with your team here, but you guys have done such a great job. Just to echo some of the comment that have been said earlier about your work here and your effort to our community members. So that, I'm saying this with all due respect, that your effort and you have been doing a great job, and at the same time here, I gotta ask a question. Now, Chief, you said that with this apparatus going to 2022, that means that going to 2022, and I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. Going to 2022, does this mean that as a city, we would be at a functioning level where we don't have to have, where we are not keeping engines that are somewhat at a menial functioning level?
Yes, I'll answer it, but if I'm off a little bit, Zach or Jamie, just chime in. But when we buy these fire trucks, the recommended purchasing schedule for a fire department of our size is to buy 2 fire engines and 1 ladder truck every other year, and then a specialty apparatus as needed every 7 years or so. After this year, with these 3 engines that they cost $950,000 a piece, buying 3 of those. Next year, we'll be right at the point where we can get back to the recommended purchasing schedule. So right now we're right at that doorstep.
Okay, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. And I just want to thank everybody on the council. I've been talking with Director Tim Rutherford when he was on the council, and just being able to explain everything. And I think we put together a pretty good program. And any other information, I got notes, and I'll get back to you with the questions that we didn't have all the information that you requested. So thank you all.
One thing I would highlight, just that I think is interesting as a former counselor, and the chief has this training tower replacement that he's kind of had in the 2nd year for a long time, and it unfortunately kind of sticks there because it's sort of tough to pay. So we have it there, and part of it is funded with other, but it's sort of to be determined. So we would really like to have some kind of partner in order to make that west side location like a more of a regional training and center. I think the chief has a lot of ideas for how he could develop that site, but and this isn't unique to fire. There's a project in water that has also been in year 2, and it's a little costly to build a second intake pipe, and we probably need some kind of partner to help make it happen. But I just think that's one of the kind of things that's hidden in this, but that is interesting. So I don't know, Chief, feel free to add to that. But
yep, I can speak about the need for this training tower for an hour or so, but I will say the training tower that we have over at our training division now was built in 1940. As you know, the development in the city, we have a lot of buildings where our firefighters can't actually, we can't reciprocate the training without having a new training tower like this, so they can be on duty and train and still respond to alarms. So it's it's definitely a necessity. Our training is the biggest component of why we're successful, and we haven't had any line of duty deaths in a few decades, but we certainly have a facility over there that is very old, and we deserve to give our firefighters the updated standard state-of-the-art equipment and training equipment to actually provide the services to the citizens. And that training facility would do just that. And I've been working with partners to make this work. And I can speak about that now or at another time, or if you guys have any questions about that, you can call me or email me and I can get all that information. But there's a lot of moving pieces with this particular project, but certainly the biggest asset the city would have is because our firefighters would be trained to protect our citizens, and that everything else would be secondary to providing our service to the people and having trained firefighters up to where I think they should be as a fire chief in our training division. So our training grounds over there, we have a lot of potential and a lot of room for improvement. And this is my goal, to get that done with your support.
I have a question, Chief, for you. Maybe this may be out of a little bit out of this topic, but it's related. Now, I think you have in-house maintenance person, right?
Yes.
Say a truck break down, that you don't take them out for maintenance. You do it right here.
As far as the fire engines and our apparatus, are you referring to, Councilman Majum?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, we have mechanics that are assigned to the fire department. Yes, and our apparatus are different than any other apparatus in the city, and their specialty because they have the pump components, they have the aerial towers that we use to rescue people out of windows, or the pumps that when the firefighters drag the hose lines in to put the fire out. That's all. The heart of that whole evolution is the pump on the fire truck. So these mechanics get specially trained on how to keep that equipment maintained.
So if a truck breaks down, what cost would be a labor? I mean, the cost would be just part, not the labor.
Can you say that one more time?
So say if a truck need to be fixed.
Yes.
Only cost you would pay for is just a part, not the labor.
Yes, besides the salary or the income from the mechanics, some of the different repairs might have to go out to a different place, or we'd use the warranty that we have. But fire apparatus are a very unique piece of equipment. We can't just take it anywhere to get fixed, but our mechanics fix. And if I'm not answering this specific enough, Zach and Jamie Fairwell can explain it a little bit more, but we maintain most of our equipment right over on our training facility grounds with our mechanics. Certainly, we definitely do.
Okay. Director Rudd, is that the same with DPW? I take, right?
Sorry, I wouldn't give the explanation for DPW. I would let them explain it. I think they do a lot of their own maintenance. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe that's about it later. All right. That's it for me.
Okay. Thank you.
If there's no other questions, any other questions from councilors? Okay, then we'll call this joint committee meeting to a close. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.